Hi guys, hope you are well, and I just want to welcome you to the wonderful world of card payments. In this first tutorial, I'm going to run through card processing at a very basic level, building up your knowledge, so when you go out to speak to customers, you have all the information you need to help them with the correct solutions. So here is a rundown of what we're going to be running through in this video. Firstly, I'm going to touch on the card payments industry as a whole, who takes card payments and who provides the services in the space, that kind of thing. Then I'm going to look at how payments are taken face to face, what card machines are used and which ones work best in which scenarios. We're then going to look at how payments are taken online or via the phone. Online payments can be a little bit more complicated, so I'm only going to give you an overview of the online side in this particular tutorial. It should give you enough of understanding to get you up and running. Then finally, I'm going to run through all the types of charges which you can expect to see on a customer statement. These can be broken down into three broad categories: transaction charges, which normally make up the largest part of a customer's bill; card machine or gateway charges, depending on how the transactions are taken, either face-to-face, online or via the phone; and lastly, other charges, which cover pretty much anything else you might encounter. Most of you will be familiar with using a card to make payments. You probably have noticed that people use their card for even small transactions these days. In fact, the use of cards to make payments has increased massively all over the UK over the last 10 years. You can see on this first graph, sometime in 2017, card payments actually overtook cash payments, and the difference has got bigger and bigger. The addition of contactless payments has made the process of making card payments much faster, and the majority of payments in the UK don't even require the customer to enter a PIN number now. This year has seen contactless payments grow even more quickly, with businesses trying to minimise the amount of contact between staff and customers. I think the main takeaway here is the card payments industry is massive and still growing. Businesses that don't take card payments are now increasingly few and far between. So who are the parties actually involved with selling card processing, and how do they differ? Well, they fall into two broad categories. They can either be classed as merchant banks or acquiring banks, who actually process card payments, and independent sales organisations or ISOs, which basically sell on the merchant bank services. This is quite similar to the car insurance industry. There are only a few companies which actually underwrite car insurance, companies like AXA or Prudential. But you see lots of other companies selling car insurance, such as Tesco or the AA, who would act as the ISOs in this example. You can see some of the merchant banks on the left hand side and ISOs on the right. Compare Card Processing deals exclusively with the ISOs, as for small to medium sized businesses they produce much cheaper rates. You may find this surprising, as ISOs are effectively adding margin onto the merchant bank's rates and selling them on. But in practice, merchant banks do not offer competitive prices for the mid to lower end of the market, allowing ISOs to undercut them. On the next slide, you can see a diagram of the four parties which are involved in the payments process. Don't stress too much about understanding this in any great detail, it's just some background knowledge for you really. In the bottom left, you can see the customer paying for the goods with their card. Just up from that, you can see the customer's bank or the issuing bank. As you may have guessed, this is basically the bank which issued the card. For example, it could be Barclays or NatWest for a debit card, or MBNA or Amex for a credit card. Right of that image is a picture of an acquiring bank or merchant bank. As discussed above, the acquiring bank will take payment for the goods from the customer's bank. The bottom picture of the basket represents the business selling the goods. The acquiring bank will take payment from the customer's bank and settle the money into the business's account, normally after a day or two. As you'd imagine, the acquiring bank won't do this for free, so they charge the business for helping them accept the card payment from the customer. Over the next few sections, we will run through all the common charges of accepting card payments, as well as the methods which are used to take them. Let's start with something that you'll be familiar with: face-to-face payments. Unless you've been stuck on Mars, most of you will be familiar with the fact that face-to-face payments are taken using card machines. Card machines read the chip on your bank card and use this to check to see if the customer has money in their bank. If they do, then a payment is made from the customer's bank into the merchant bank. There are 3 types of card machines, all of which can transmit data via broadband or phone connection. The simplest and cheapest option is the countertop machine. This simply plugs into the mains and just sits on the counter. You can't move this device. But if you don't need this function, it's the cheapest type of machine. Next up is the portable machine. You will have seen these in restaurants where the machine can move away from the base so the waiter can bring the machine to the customer. Normally the range is around 100 meters between the machine and the base. As you'd expect, this type of machine is slightly more expensive than the countertop. The last kind of terminal is called a mobile card machine. These units have a SIM card and allow the user to take payments anywhere. These machines do not have a base and are brilliant for all kinds of traders like taxi drivers, hairdressers, and are even replacing portable machines within restaurant environments. They normally cost a few pounds more a month than a portable machine. Just a quick word on electronic point of sale, or EPOS. You'll have seen these in all kinds of shops, and they help customers to keep track of inventory and product prices. They're linked with the card machine so the customer can take payments by pushing a few buttons on the screen. Certain EPOS providers integrate with certain banks, so it's best to check with us to see if a customer's system will work properly with the new provider. Finally, card machines are rented for a monthly fee, generally £15 to £25 a month, dependent on the type of machine and length of contract with the customer. Contract lengths vary, but are normally 24 to 48 months. That's most of the information you'll need on face-to-face payments. You'll get familiar with the machine types when you're out on the road. Next up is online and card not present payments. All of you will have shopped online and entered your card details on a payments page. In the same way as a card machine, once the customer submits their details, this page checks the customer's balance and makes payment to the acquiring bank. The payment page is also commonly called the online gateway. Most businesses have their gateway and card processing with the same provider, but sometimes they can use different companies. For example, they could have their card processing with Barclaycard and their online payments with SagePay. This would mean they would have to pay fees for each company separately. Don't worry about this too much at this stage, as we will support you if you need to understand this in more detail. The other part of card not present payments is telephone sales. Think about companies which take payments in a call centre. They need a familiar payments page to enter card details into. This is often called a virtual terminal. An important thing to mention here is that some shops like Takeaways use their card machine to take payments over the phone. They simply key in the details on the machine. This is fine if you take the odd payment here or there, but like in the case of a call centre, this is not practical for every business, so they would use a virtual terminal to take the payments over the phone instead. A payment gateway or virtual terminal costs normally around £15 to £20 a month. Then there's normally a 10p per transaction fee on top. Some ISOs offer some great deals, like the first 200 transactions free. Gateway or virtual terminal fees are in addition to the card transaction fees we're going to discuss next. Transaction charges relate to the type of card which is used to make the payment. Different cards have different charges, and all cards fall into 3 card types. The most common card is a debit card. Everyone has a debit card linked to their bank account, and around 70% of all transactions are completed via this type of card. There are a few different card names you will see under the debit card category. You will see card names like Visa Debit, MasterCard debit and Visa Electron on virtually every merchant bank statement. Debit card transactions are normally the cheapest, so you can use this information to identify debit card fees, which range from 0.3 to 0.6%. Credit cards, or personal credit cards, are the second most common card used in the UK. Common card names include Visa Credit and MasterCard Credit, but there are a number of other card types. These are normally shown on the statement as CR Personal or some variation to this. Credit cards are slightly more expensive than debit cards, with rates around 0.6 to 1.2% depending on the company's turnover. The final card type is commercial cards. For most businesses, there is very little commercial card usage on the statement, as this card is only used by businesses purchasing goods from one another. The main exceptions are companies which sell into other businesses or B2B. You may see a high percentage of commercial card usage in this rare example. You will normally be able to spot commercial cards on statements with the name commercial or business in the name, or basically any other card which does not look like a debit or credit card. The rates are also much higher, normally in excess of 1.5% up to 3%. Reviewing transactions can be tricky, as all of the banks use different wording for different card types, making it harder to see which is which. We'll be going through lots of statements in other videos, so you can get familiar with the charges section. Finally, as well as terminal and transaction charges, there are also some other charges. On the table, you can see the most common types of other charges you will come across. You may see some other odd examples, but this will be pretty rare. Auth fees are a rate charged for each transaction or each sale. Normally these are charged around 3p a sale. Not all providers have this charge, and using the comparison site and finding a provider who doesn't have this charge can save the customer money. The PCI DSS fee is charged to keep card information secure on behalf of the customer. It normally costs around £5 a month, and most providers will have this on their statement. Refunds are exactly what they sound like and cost 35 to 50 pence. Lastly, you have non-secure fees. This is a sneaky charge some providers will tag onto the transaction charges. A transaction is non-secure on 2 occasions. If the business takes a payment when the customer is not present using their card machine, they must input the 3-digit CVV code on the back of the card. If not, this transaction is deemed to be non-secure. For online payments, it's a little bit different. You may have noticed a little pop-up after you buy something online from Visa Verify or MasterCard Secure, asking you to add some more details. If the customer doesn't have this activated, then the transaction is deemed unsecure. Some customers are not aware of this and can get charged thousands of pounds without realising. Non-secure fees can be expensive, around 0.3 to 0.5% on top of the standard transaction charges. Lastly, just a couple of things that you need to know. Settlement times. This is the amount of time it takes for the merchant bank to settle their money into their account. For example, if I did a sale today and the settlement time is 1 day, then you should expect to get your money the day after tomorrow. Most banks settle between 1 and 3 days. I'm sure you will have used contactless by now, so I won't go into this in too much detail. All you need to know is that all machines are contactless enabled and have a limit of £45. And finally, providers will offer card machines from different brands. The main types are provided by Ingenico, Verifone and Pax. We will provide you with PDFs to show your customers what these machines look like. You'll be glad to hear that that's pretty much it. Don't worry if it seems like there's a lot to get your head around. There are lots more videos which will help you get a better understanding of the card processing industry. The next video will show you around the Compare card processing platform and how to use it to get a quote for the customer. Ciao for now!